Listen Up with Jim Potts. Listen up, business owners, CFOs, human resource managers, and all managers and supervisors. Jim Potts is answering and addressing your questions and concerns, helping you stay out of court. Furthermore, please be advised that Jim's answers are not legal advice and are only intended as a guide based on his years of experience. The phone lines are open. 1-855-4-J-POTS. That's 1-855-457-6887. You can also email us at listenup@jameswilliampottsllc.com. Ready to listen up? Here is Jim Potts.
Jim Potts back on the air. Well, I hope your Christmas holiday was nice, and hopefully everybody out there had a very happy event. I call it Christmas because, hey, it's to me it's still Christmas, but for those of you who don't celebrate it as Christmas, I at least hope your holiday was nice, whatever your specific religion is or is not. At any rate, listen, I want to talk about something today called that has to do with a not so talked about subject, but it's one that appears to be on the rise. And what that has to do is color blind employment practices is what we're talking about here. And this is something that's on the rise. And let me just explain that to you a little bit. The word on employment law has an interesting post in terms of this word color. And I want you to understand that I'm saying color, not race. Under Title VII, which is, as you know, should know, that's the one that says you have a right to work in an environment free from discrimination based upon age, race, color, marital status, disability, and this national origin as an example. And this emerging issue on color, I want to kind of give you a definition of sorts on that, because you always hear about the expression people of color. Now, the EEOC actually gives some guidance as to what the definition of color means, because if anybody files, they file with the EEOC based upon color. Here's the definition according to the EEOC. Pigmentation, complexion, or skin shade or tone. Thus, color discrimination occurs when a person is discriminated against based on their lightness, darkness, or other color characteristics of the person. Now, even though race and color clearly overlap, they are not synonymous. Thus, color discrimination can occur between persons of different races or ethnicities, or between persons of the same race or ethnicity. So basically, what are we talking about here? You could have two African-American individuals, one suing the other one, under color discrimination, and that's actually happened. I don't know if you've heard about that case. Some of you have taken my seminars to probably recall that there was a case for Applebee's. And under Applebee's, there was an employee who was black, manager who was black, and then the employee sued the manager, the black manager, and Applebee's for discrimination. It was based on color. Now, for those of you out there that don't understand that as a concept, and why blacks would be discriminating against each other based upon different shades. Well, first of all, this is an issue that goes back probably 200 plus years. Who worked in the fields, dark skin. Who worked in the house, light skin. And I'm not saying that this is an issue for every single African American out there or some of the other color groups with people of color. But for some blacks, even to this day, and I use that term blacks and African American kind of interchangeably, and it's still a sensitive issue. The same way that some, they have Caucasian fraternities and sororities. Well, blacks, they have their sororities as well. And there's two sororities. One is called the AKAs and another one called the Deltas. Now, back in the day, in order for a young lady to pledge AKA, they would hold a paper bag against her skin. It's called the paper bag test. If she was lighter than that bag, she could pledge AKA. If she was darker, she'd have to pledge Delta. Now, look, for all those sorority sisters that are out there, AKA and Delta, don't be writing me all this hate mail. My mother was an AKA, but I've known plenty of Deltas, very nice people, and we're talking about going back in time a little bit. So I'm not out there to justify it one way or another. It's just the way that it was at some point. For those of you that are not African American, this does go back, in our heritage of sorts. And those are the issues that some people have had and some people still have them, unfortunately. Now, let me just give you a hypothetical about an example of color discrimination. This one's given to us by the EEOC. Now, an African American employer violates Title VII if she refuses to hire other African Americans whose skin is either darker or lighter than her own. For example, it would be an unlawful act of discrimination, of color discrimination, for an employer to refuse to hire a dark-skinned person to work at a cosmetic counter because the vendor prefers a light-skinned representative. Another one, a dark-complected African American manager violates Title VII if he frequently makes offensive jokes and comments about the skin color of a lighter complexioned subordinate. And that's kind of like the one that I was telling you about a little bit earlier that the EEOC is also quoting. Now, I had a client one time, and the woman was from Africa. They were doing a photo shoot for their marketing piece that they were going to send out to prospective customers. And the ladies working under her were of different shades of color. And they took a bunch of pictures and then showed them to her. And when they showed them to her, she started pointing out different people in the picture who, in her opinion, the picture would look better with. And all the people that she selected were all light-skinned. The people she rejected were all dark-skinned. So one of the dark-skinned female employees obviously got upset and filed a charge of color discrimination against her. And, according to the manager who did this, she was just looking at it in terms of, she said, who this was going out to. And in her opinion, who it was going out to in the community that it was going out to, she just felt that the light-skinned individuals would look better to those people. And you have to look at that and say, come on, what the heck are you thinking about? You can't just do it like that. Well, she was from Africa. She said that she didn't understand all of the laws that we have here. Well, it doesn't matter whether or not it's by accident or not. You can still be held accountable to it. So now, moving on with this one, the EEOC feels that color discrimination in employment seems to be on the rise, meaning that they're getting and seeing more and more claims. 3 years ago, they said, they had 374 charges that were alleging color-based discrimination. A couple of years after that, they're now saying that that number increased to 1,241. In their opinions, it's on its way up. They've also looked at black males who are light-skinned with only a bachelor's degree and basic work experience are preferred over a dark-skinned black male with an MBA with past managerial position experience. Now, you have to look at that and say, why is that? Well, I got to tell you, this some legislation is being pushed right now in some of the different states, and they claim that good-looking people get hired more, get promoted more, and get frequent raises, as opposed to not so good-looking people. And according to some of these legislators that are pushing some of this information, they feel that there should be some protections in place for people that are not so good looking. Now, I don't even know how the heck they can even do this, because beauty is in the eyes of the beholder. So to me, it's a ridiculous concept by the way that they're trying to do it, because again, I'll stress that beauty is in the eyes of the beholder. I guess I'm not worrying about it because I'm such a good-looking guy myself. I'm never worrying about anybody discriminating against me. Hey, I recognize that might be subject to some opinions out there, but that's okay. So look, you got to be careful. You have practices out here. You have people of color. These issues that come up with blacks suing blacks, it happens. There was a lady out of New York, I think it was last year, that sued her black, she was black, and she sued her black manager because he would use the N-word with her. And she got upset about that, and it went in front of a jury. Jury came out and ruled in front of her. Well, you know what? When the policy comes, when the employer comes out with a policy that states you will not use these types of words, they don't put in parentheses unless you have the same ethnic background. It's not how it works. These words are inappropriate in any work environment. And in that particular one, that particular employer got themselves in trouble. So look, is what I want you to do is to be a little bit more aware of this emerging issue with color. Now, I was talking about African Americans, but understand there are other individuals from other countries where, in fact, there are people of different shades of pigmentation, color, whatever the word that you want to use. So I'm not just limiting this to the African American community. All right, with that last comment, it's time to close out this segment, but let me remind you that you can also hear us on Facebook at Listen Up and subscribe to us on iTunes. Just search for Listen Up with Jim Potts. And as a reminder, we take calls every third Friday, and we can be reached at 855-4J-POTS or 855-457-6887. And you can reach us normally between 9:45 and 10:15. Or you can email us at listenup@jameswilliampottsllc.com. Okay, I'm Jim Potts. I will continue to fight the fight. Thank you so much for listening. Bye.
Thank you for being a part of Listen Up with Jim Potts. We take your calls every third Friday at 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time for your questions and concerns. Call us at 1-855-4J-POTS. That's 1-855-4J-POTS. Again, that's every third Friday at 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time at 1-855-4J-POTS. Like us on Facebook, subscribe to us on iTunes, and link up with us on LinkedIn. You can also email us at listenup@jameswilliampottsllc.com. Until next time, make it a great week.